Hello and welcome to Ask ICAEW, an opportunity to put questions to ICAEW's Chief Executive Michael Izza. My name is Kirsten Gillen. I'm a member of staff here in ICAEW and I'll be asking the questions this morning. We've got about half an hour to get through as many questions as possible, and thank you very much for all those who have submitted questions. We really appreciate that. There's still an opportunity to ask questions, and you can do that via Twitter using the hashtag askICAEW, or you can send an email to chief.executive@icaew.com. And if we don't get a chance to answer your question this morning, you will receive a response later by email, so rest assured you will get an answer to your question. So the context of the discussion this morning is the annual review. We have now published that for 2016 and it's available at icaew.com/review. So please do go and have a look at that, and you'll also find details there of the AGM, which will take place on the 6th of June. So welcome, Michael. Thank you for making the time again this morning to take some questions. I wanted to start just with a bit of personal reflection on 2016 and what your highlight for ICAEW was in 2016.
Well, when we actually look at 2016, I mean, it's been a very good year on so many counts, but I actually think probably the thing that we'll look back on as being the highlight is the new strategy, because we spent 2 years actually preparing that, consulting with our governance, many of our members. The new vision for the ICAEW is a world of strong economies, and that encapsulates the important work that chartered accountants do around the world in all the different sectors of the economy. And we've also linked this very much to the Sustainable Development Goals. So these were announced by the United Nations in 2015. There are 17 of them. They are the most important things that over 190 governments have said should be the priority for the world for the next 15 years. So to think that, you know, we can have a part in helping achieve these, I think is very exciting, and I hope it's something that members feel equally excited about as well.
That's interesting. I think quite a lot of the questions today have that theme of change going throughout them, so I'm sure we'll cover a lot of those points later on. So just on the other side of things, was there anything in particular that you were, you know, where we didn't achieve what we'd hoped to do and where you thought we could have done better?
Well, I am a perfectionist, and there are always things that with the benefit of hindsight I think we could have done better. But having said that, it would be churlish to say we could have done better, you know, when we exceeded target in something. But I think if there was one thing that was, I think, difficult in 2016, it was, and this won't mean a lot to our members outside the UK, but in the UK, members will know that we've introduced a new apprenticeship levy on all businesses in the UK over a certain size. That went live on the 1st of April 2017, but in all the prep work that was being done in 2016, we had lots and lots of false starts. And really the ACA qualification, which in many ways is a classic apprenticeship, has had to jump through all sorts of hoops, comply with all sorts of processes to get acceptance. And I'm glad to say we're nearly there, but it was something I would have liked to have gone more smoothly.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions on the financials to get through quickly. Firstly, the annual review does show another good financial year, another surplus. So given that context, why is the subscription going up again?
Okay, well, I think if members have a look at either the annual review or indeed the full financial statements, they'll notice that we have an operating result of £900,000, but we have an overall result of 11.4 million. And the reason why is because we've had some substantial fines and costs as a result of cases that the FRC have taken through to a successful conclusion. And because we are the professional body funding those, that money comes back to us. Now that's money that, you know, we didn't plan on receiving. We also have some plans and commitments as to how we want to spend that. So if you look at the 0.9 as actually the overall operating result, the need for salary increases just to keep pace with inflation in the UK is over £1 million. So that effectively covers the whole of the subscription rise that we're asking for. And we're in a very hot employment market now in the UK for technical staff of all kinds. So we had 143 staff members who left the ICAEW last year. And that isn't because it isn't a great place to work, but many of them left for personal advancement and because they could get better salaries elsewhere. And we have to remain reasonably competitive. I think there's some other things as well, which again, are relatively small, but the apprenticeship levy that I'd mentioned, the ICAEW has to pay that in 2017, £225,000. Our rates have gone up between £150,000 and £200,000, and the costs that we may have to pay to the various regulators that we interact with, and of course we're a regulator ourselves, could be close to £500,000. So I mean, these are all costs that the subscription increase nowhere near covers. So we are going to have to make savings or generate income anyway. But we're very conscious of how much members pay, and we try and keep it at a manageable level.
And in terms of those monies that we've got in relationship to fines, do we have plans at this stage in terms of what we're going to do with that money?
We do, and I've talked to the board and council about some ideas of projects that we think could, first of all, help enhance member skills, but secondly, deal with some of the quality issues that give rise to some of these fines and costs in the first place. So I mean, I think that will be a positive thing to spend the money on.
Okay. Looking at growth and membership, Pathways has been reintroduced recently as a route into membership for those who are accounted through other bodies. What's the take-up been so far, and what are you hoping to achieve from reopening Pathways?
Well, as we sit here today, the take-up is 0.
Okay.
Because
it's quite recent, I know.
because we only relaunched at the end of February, but we've had expressions of interest of around about 1,000.
Okay.
And we will begin to process those in the course of 2017. There'll be a number of workshops, and then people will have to submit their examination of experience. I mean, it's only probably going to impact us to the tune of hundreds, but this has been reopened by popular demand, and it's been opened because lots of people didn't have the opportunity to study for the ACA in the first instance, so this is a bit of catch-up. But we've also reconsidered our position in terms of other qualifications. So one of the changes in the new Pathways is if you belong to a professional body where we recognise their examinations as being equivalent to 10 credits currently of the ACA, that's the new basis on which we're willing to then let them submit an examination of experience. I would just like to stress, this is not an easy route in, okay? The pass rate for the old Pathways scheme was 55%. That's lower than the pass rate overall for the ACA. So it's not an easy option.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned the new strategy. We also have a new brand, which was launched quite recently. Why now? What's the sort of perceived benefit of and the thinking behind the brand?
Well, the last brand review was carried out in 2004-05, and that did mark quite a substantial change in how we presented ourselves and brought us into the 21st century. We've done a couple of tweaks since then, but it was starting to need a bit of refreshing, in particular because of the use that we now have with digital media, because the old brand wasn't working as well as it might. So I think that this was an update. We didn't actually spend a lot of money on it. It was $150,000 to actually do the whole redesign project. How much we spend over future years will depend on campaigns and advertising, etc. But I think that's a relatively modest amount for an organisation that has income in excess of 100 million. But we've also made economy a fuller figure. We've taken her out of the shield, And we're doing what I think are some clever things with the dividers, because she holds dividers. If you've ever been wondering what those things are she's holding in her hands, one's a rod, the other's dividers. So the dividers are actually going to be used in our imagery going forward, and we've trademarked those. So expect to see more of that.
And what has the response been so far to the new relaunch?
Universally popular. I've had one member complaint. I think the president's probably had a couple as well, but overwhelmingly it's been very well received.
Good, good. Moving now on to, we've got 3 themes of the new strategy: connected communities, future professional, and the Agile Institute. We've got a few questions on each of those. Just in terms of that connected communities, what do you see that changing in terms of how we interact with our members and the opportunities for members? How do you see that developing? I know we've launched some new online communities recently, so how do you see that developing?
Well, I don't think this is a radical change. I think it's an evolution, because in many ways the reason why chartered accountants started to meet in their local environment was to network and compare information, back in Victorian times. So, I mean, it's only a development of something that is very much in our roots. What we want to do, though, is look at smarter ways of allowing our members to engage, because when you've got over 147,000 members, you can't get them all in one room. As we know, we're an international body now in over 150 countries, so we have to use technology and other mediums to allow this interaction. What we want to do, though, is we want to find more opportunities for our members to do their jobs and their roles better, and that means that we'll probably see more sector industry specific focus communities rather than technical ones, because that's something that members have told us they particularly value. I think the other element of connected communities, which I know many people certainly in council and among the staff here are excited about, is we need to interact with others. One thing our members have told us very clearly is, yes, we do value our interaction and our networking with fellow members, but we also want to interact with other people as well, because they bring expertise, and combining their expertise and knowledge with ours makes for a better outcome.
Okay. Got a bit of more of technical question now relating to tax avoidance and tax evasion, which is always a hot topic on these discussions we've had. We recently introduced new rules in the PCRT. Can you just talk a little bit about how that's going to affect practitioners and what the likelihood is of disciplinary action for those doing tax planning in the future?
Well, it's a very easy answer. For 99.9% of our membership, it won't affect what they do one jot. I mean, the PCRT is not there to stop our members giving tax advice. It is there, though, to stop people developing schemes that are either uneconomic or egregious in nature, and they are the only people who I think should be worried about this.
Okay.
I think it's a very straightforward answer. We've got an excellent website which has got all the answers. So I know that when this initially came out, there was some concern among tax practitioners that it might stop advice in this area or that area. It doesn't. Okay. So you should find the explanations there. And let me just stress as well, it doesn't stop challenge to HMRC, because HMRC don't always get it right. And if HMRC are wrong, it's legitimate to question whether or not their particular position is correct. So it doesn't stop that.
Okay. Another question now on our theme of change. We've had the brand, the strategy. We've also had a fairly refurbished Chartered Accountants Hall and the library. How are members going to benefit from this major investment that's been made in the building?
Well, I think first of all, members, if they do have the ability to visit Chartered Accountants Hall, should go and look at the business centre, because it's fantastic. So we've considerably extended the former business centre space. Some people will know that there was a space that was designated as library. That's now been expanded so that members can sit and work there. The library staff haven't disappeared. They've been deployed elsewhere in the building, so they're still there to answer questions, and they do a phenomenal job in terms of their knowledge and their ability to help members cut very quickly through to the information they need. So I mean that's the principal benefit they'll see. We've refurbished lots of our rooms, so the auditorium, and indeed this room that we're in here. I mean this used to be rather tatty and now it's rather smart, and I think if I was a member and wanted to have a meeting here or bring a client here, I'd be very proud and happy to do that. So that's the first phase. We've also had to refurbish the staff floors. Now those haven't been done for several decades, and hopefully they're now okay for another couple of decades, but we were at risk of some of the critical services that came into this building failing, and if those had failed and we'd been unable to use Chartered Accountants Hall, I think frankly we'd have looked like chumps. There are some further plans which I should just sort of tease members with today. I mean, first of all, we have a restaurant in the basement, and to be frank with you, the days of fine dining at lunch have gone, and we are looking at options to also convert that into member space, because the way members work today is that they are very mobile, they want a secure place where they can go and do emails, and you know, while Costa Coffee or Starbucks does it for some, you know, it's not a confidential environment to, you know, have a phone call with a client, and whether the Wi-Fi is secure or not is another matter. So we think that this could be good. In conjunction with that, we've also started to take a number of spaces that members can work around the country. I think we've got 8 of those up and running at the moment. If those go well, we'll look at more. And there isn't any reason why, you know, in the fullness of time, we couldn't look at doing some of this internationally. The final thing is the Great Hall is going to need to be refurbished. Again, this is a high-class problem. The reason why the Great Hall needs to be refurbished is the amount of use it's getting. And that's, you know, great, because there's nothing worse than having a building that nobody comes to. Well, we're using this so much that it's getting worn out.
Excellent. And it's good to know there's also support for members outside of London and the South East. Yeah, good. Just to remind anyone watching that they still have the opportunity to ask questions at this point, and they can do that through the hashtag askICAEW on Twitter, or by sending an email to chief.executive@icaew.com. So another theme is looking at the future professional and helping members and students adapt to some of the changes in the environment, particularly from technology, things like that. So how is ICAEW specifically helping practices to prepare for the future and adapt to some of the changes they're seeing in the environment?
Technology is the thing that I'm probably spending more of my time on than anything else. And potentially it's a great opportunity, but I also worry that some of our members aren't looking at how much of a seismic change this could be. So specifically on your question about practice, we have had our Tomorrow's Practice series. That's continuing, so we're looking at helping members, first of all, perhaps make a transition to running their businesses in the cloud. We're also helping them look at things like other value-added services when things that perhaps are more compliance in nature start to disappear, because that will be done by technology and AI. So I mean, to give you an example of that, I mean, one of the things we've been doing a lot more of in 2016 and indeed in 2017 is support for our members who are interested in advising on personal financial planning. So one of the little leaflets, and one of the things I know on our website has gone down extremely well, is what can you do with a DPB license? Because we are able to do lots and lots of financial planning short of selling products with the licenses that we've already got. That's been really popular. I know that yesterday we had a webinar, for example, on advising clients on buy-to-let properties. I think we had nearly 1,000 people viewing that at the time, and then we'll, you know, have obviously people who look at it afterwards. So these things are really popular. We also held a launch in November of a new product that was looking at automating the audit, and we had 105 firms there, and that went down very well. So I mean, we are trying to give members tools, but at the end of the day, they run their own businesses, not us. So we can help them, but they have to help themselves as well.
Yeah. At the other end of the spectrum, thinking about our students and the evolution of the ACA, again, to reflect, more skills and technology, what is happening on that end in terms of how the ACA is responding to these kinds of changes?
Well, the ACA is always evolving. So, I mean, in all of my time at the ICAEW, we've been adding things to the course syllabus and changing emphasis. And every now and again, we have a big change. Well, in 2018, there's going to be another big infusion of technology. And part of this is because of the feedback we're getting from employers in particular about the skill sets that they need their people to have in future. So data analytics, I mean, everybody's talking about it. It's old hat now, but it is becoming essential to the work of chartered accountants wherever they operate. And I think this is a path that we are going to have to continue to develop further. I think one of the challenges we've got, though, with the ACA and how chartered accountants train is that as more of the things that we used to do, if you like, to learn our profession become automated, how do you actually develop the experience that someone needs down the line? I mean, if I go back to my days, when we used to have a sample of 40 and we used to test them through the cycles, and if there was a problem, you'd look at the exceptions. Well, today, when you can test the whole population, how many billions of transactions, I mean, that seems very quaint and outdated, but, that's where we are and that's where we're going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The third theme of the strategy is the Agile Institute. What does that actually mean in practice, and how are members going to see any difference in how they interact with ICAEW as we become an Agile Institute?
Well, I think that we're already pretty agile, but this is a statement of intent to become even more agile going forward. So for me, this is about responding quickly to challenges, because if, for example, we have a particular challenge that is either a threat or an opportunity to our members, there's no point talking about it for 2 years, because by then it's gone. I mean, sometimes these things require a pretty instantaneous decision. So it's making sure that our governance is fit for purpose for the 21st century. It's also about recognising that an Agile Institute is one which has to be flexible and adaptable, because some of these technology changes that we've touched on, I can't tell you what demands they're going to put on us in 3 years' time, but I do know that if we're adaptable and flexible, we'll be able to deal with them, whereas if we are a monolith that can't change, we have a limited lifespan.
Well, linking now to some of those big challenges for 2017, making tax digital, I think it's top of many people's agenda. Again, opportunity or a threat to tax practice in a nutshell?
It's a bit of both. Technology is the way forward, but the technology that we use has to be fit for purpose. I think it also needs to be, recognise the environment in which it's working, and, if you like, the human beings are on the other side. So we are supportive of a digital agenda for government. We are supportive of our tax system becoming more digital. We have concerns, though, about whether or not the technology is actually ready at the moment, and we will become clearer on that as the testing phase goes through over the next short period. There isn't any doubt that if you have a low value tax practice, I think that business is at risk. So you have to be thinking about the value that you can add to either a corporate or an individual with whom you work to do their tax. But we know that in the UK, and I'm talking about a UK context here at the minute, our tax system is incredibly complicated. And despite the fact that various chancellors have stood in Chartered Accountants Hall and said, it's their intention to make the tax system simpler, year after year the Finance Act becomes more and more complicated and adds more and more legislation. So it's a very complicated situation. So I don't see tax advisors disappearing, but I think what they need to do will have to be mindful of the fact that elements of compliance will be replaced by machines, and we at the ICAEW are here to help them. We've got a fantastic resource centre in the tax faculty, which is everything you need to know about MTD. We've got webinars there, and I think it would be nice if the members recognised as well that we have moved the dial on this, because when I had my first meeting with the minister over a year ago, they said we were the only people who were expressing any concern about making tax digital. Well, we weren't, and we were right.
Okay, we've got time, I think, for one more big question, which is Brexit. What's ICAEW doing in this? What are some of our key messages? What are some of our activity in terms of Brexit?
I thought I was going to get through a whole interview without having to talk about Brexit.
Sorry, we're very close to the end.
Our key messages are about making sure that business and our members are able to work effectively after April 2019 as they were when we were still in the European Union. Of course, we are still in the European Union, but it does mean we need to be clear about things like recognition of qualifications, recognition of professional bodies, how member firms work. But I think we will get into a lot more detail about things like making sure the tax regimes work well. Data and data transfer is a big issue. So at the moment, we don't really know what the issues are because the negotiations haven't started. One thing that I could mention, which members may be interested in, is that later this week, we are going to be publishing a paper which is based on publicly available financial information that the Commission have put out, which looks at the obligations that the UK has in respect of its EU membership. We think it throws a little bit of light on what the UK may have to pay as part of a settlement, but let me stress that's a political negotiation. We've just analysed the numbers.
Okay, so that will be thinking about the cost of Brexit in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's coming out later this week.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we're getting close to the end of the session now, so I want to circle back. We did a personal reflection at the beginning of 2016. In terms of 2017, what is your top priority for what ICAEW could achieve this year?
Top priority is technology, and understanding how it's going to impact our members, because you talked about our members initially in practice, but I'm as bothered, if not more, about our members in business, because I've seen some of the demonstrations of what things like blockchain and the other proprietorial systems that are being developed are capable of doing. They are radically going to reform how businesses function, and finance departments are going to be at the core of this. I think potentially lots of clerical and technician jobs are going to disappear. And while our members can say, well, we don't do those sort of jobs, I don't think we should be complacent that we're going to be fine. We need to be thinking about the value add that we can have to make sure we are still an important part of how companies operate.
So technology is the key priority.
Yep.
Okay. And as someone working in the IT faculty, I'm very pleased to hear that, Michael. So I think we're pretty much out of time now. Thank you very much for your time, it's much appreciated. If you haven't asked a question this morning, there is still time to do so, and you can do that through Twitter using the hashtag askICAEW, or you can also send an email to chief.executive@icaew.com. We will still get a response back to you over email later in the day, so rest assured you will get an answer. Please also look at the annual review, which is at icaew.com/review, and you'll find details there about the AGM that will be taking place on the 6th of June. So please do look at that and exercise your vote as a member. So thank you very much for your time, Michael, this morning. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Thank you.